series, and they are not individual webinars. They are kind of connected to each other. The first one, which is today, we are talking about CIM, why we should use CIM. And the second one is more regarding the challenges that you are going to face when you start this journey. And the third one is the approach for different solution or different way to avoid this challenging. And if you're new to CIM, I hope at the end of this webinar you understand what is CIM and why it matters. And if you're more experienced to CIM, maybe you look to that as a practical lens to that webinar. There we go. We are here with the reality today before CIM. The utilities are highly connected. They have a lot of applications, tools. They are connected to each other. They need the data that communicate to each other. But as you see, all this connected through custom point-to-point integration. And as you add a new system to that environment, get more complicated. This spaghetti connection here, as you see, get more complex. Every system integrates with every other system, and they need some data from each other. That is, if you are not using CIM, you you're in kind of a situation like that. The hidden problem is this system speaks its own language, correct? The same asset, but different names. For example, in your EMS system, you have a generator, you maybe call it Gen 1, and in your AGC, you call it Unit ABC. They are the same generators, different name, correct? Or the same structure, different formats, same data, different meanings. That is the problem. We don't have a single source of truth. And that make it complicated. And here in the next, you will see why it is matters. This integration complexity grow over the time, especially these days that the grid is so dynamic, that a lot of things, that renewable energy is added, the fast charger, EV charger is added, and all this stuff make our grid more complicated. More system, more interfaces, correct? And more interfaces, you need more maintenance. And more maintenance means higher costs and risk. If you do changes in one subsystem, this one is going to impact the other systems. And that is the risk that bring to your environment. And changes becomes expensive, correct? If you do some changes in one area, is impacting other area, other subsystem, you have to validate, go through, make sure your changes is not breaking anything else. And that is the complexity that you get. Now we are talking CIM. When CIM comes to the picture, CIM, as you know, that is a standard developed by IEC, International Electrotechnical Commission, and evolved a lot. Last maybe 2 decades, it's growing and growing, and get a lot of standard objects that utilities, they can use it for their benefit. One thing I wanted to mention here, CIM is not a software that you can download, install, bring your legacy model to that software, and voila, you have CIM standard. It is not that way. Actually, that is a journey to get from your legacy system to CIM standard. You have to go through this process. The CIM standard defines represent system components. It defines how a breaker, a switch, a transformer is defined with a specific structure, attributes, and the connection and the association with other objects. All they are defined in CIM, which is great, correct? You can think CIM as a shared language. Without CIM, each system speaks its own language, correct? And for communication between them, that's the reason you need point-to-point integration, because you need a translator in between. and convert the same data for this subsystem. And if you have another system, the same data, the same meaning, but you have to convert it differently that other system can understand. But when we get the CIM, everyone is talking the same language, correct? They use the same definition. CIM lines meeting, not just format. Systems can understand each other. That is the beauty of CIM, that you get it. That is a common language, common structure. If you send a breaker the information of your piece of your network model to your neighboring utility, exactly they know what they should expect in your side, inside your file, correct? Because that is a standard and they know what they get. A simple example is a breaker, correct? A breaker can be without CIM defined differently, as you can see here, but with CIM, that is the same object, same meaning across all systems. That means breaker is standardized and one object with a specific attributes that you can expect for that breaker object. And everybody that using this CIM standard expecting the same things. There is no surprise for them, correct? Here you saw the picture at the beginning on the left side, that is this spaghetti that all connect to the point-to-point custom integration. But when we adopt the CIM, actually what we are doing here in that picture, you can see, we get a common shared model through CIM. At that time, all applications, they can understand the same model because that is the same language, correct? Before you had to convert, transfer for SCADA, EMS, OMS, GIS, and so on. They are different language before, but when you convert to CIM, you adopt it, all application, they can understand the same language. That is the beauty of CIM. When you convert it, your model, yes, you have to go through process, still you have the mapping, validation, and so on. But after that, you reduce the amount of the work that you have to do in long time, correct? Long run, if you get another application and you are not CIM, then you need, again, to start to define the same object that you have differently for different application. But in that CIM world, you don't do that. That is all defined in CIM, and you can see the benefits of CIM, Interoperability across vendors, reduce custom integrations, improve data consistency, alignment across planning and operations. They are talking the same language, correct? And utilities see faster system integration, a better data quality, easier vendor collaboration, long-term cost reduction. If you go as utility to your vendor and say, hey, I have my model in CIM, and we want to go to your platform, for them it's much easier to get you on board, correct? Because you have the standard and they know their tools understand that. Just you need to import your model to their network modeling tools that they have, and voila, you have your model there. Then they start to make the validation, make sure the topology is good, you don't have island there, and everything fine. You are ahead of the work already done. Just imagine if you didn't have that CIM, then you had to go and point-to-point integration, and that is very painful. And when something is changed, then you have to go and change everywhere and make sure it's not breaking the other system. And that is the other benefit of having CIM. What is profile? That is a very important term that you need to know about that. CIM is a full model, correct? Has everything, has all models, objects, attributes, associations with other objects. But for your use case, maybe you don't need to use everything. What we are going to do, we define the profiles, correct? For example, EQ or TP, SSH profiles. Each of them get only a subset of your model for your specific use case, and you can use it. For the equipment, for example, contains just your device properties, the name, the attributes, and so on. And then if you want just to run your topology processor, you don't need the full model, correct? You just get the subset of that, the equipment and topology, and run your process on the top of that. And SSH, for example, STDSA hypothesis. This one provides the operational input, correct? Load, generation, data set, and so on. That is how I want that you understand the profile. Think about it like a filtering. You filter your model because you don't need everything. Just you have to specify what you need and how you can get it through profile. CIM comes with some standard profiles, which are good. You can use it like IC61 970 452. Then you can look to that and try to use it. My suggestion all the time, if you need something, try to be close to a standard. Don't add anything or extension to that as much as you can. The next term is extension. For sure, CIM has a lot of stuff there, but still maybe you find out 5% use cases that you have, and you cannot find a class or attribute in CIM standard, correct? But you're not blocked there. You can define your own extensions. And that means you see the class, but you are missing attribute. You want to add external ID for your breaker, for example, but doesn't exist in a standard. But that's fine. You can define this extension. And your operational model, or what goes to your production, is a combination of your core SIM core model plus your extension and vendors extension. Sometimes vendors, they need for their application running EMS, some other stuff, they need to define their extension through SIM. And that's at the end comes up, and this is your model in full, correct? Your extension core plus vendors extension. As you can see, here, the definition you can read through for the requirements that you need. You can add it and so on. Just I want to mention here the key challenge. Extension reduce interoperability. And that's true, because if you add your extension and you try to exchange your model with your neighboring utility, they don't know about your attribute that you have added. They don't know about external ID that you have added on their breaker, object. That's why they cannot interpret that. They cannot parse it or use it. Otherwise, you sit together, talk to them and say, hey, in this file, you are receiving this extension that you have added, and you can grab from there. But that is work, correct? That you have to adjust with the other people that they are going to use your data, your extension. Try to find the class attributes and read the meaning of them and see if they are close to what you're trying to achieve, and use that one as much as possible. If not, that's fine, totally fine. You can define your extension. But the other step I would recommend, try to bring your extension to a standard community. And, UCA International, we have many working group, the smart people there, and they are can get it as proposal. And if they see this coming, one attribute is missing from 2, 3, 5 utilities, and they are doing their own extension, then there is a need to get that one inside the CIM standard, and with the next release, you are going to get it. And that is actually good things. Extension is fine. You can do it, what you need for your use cases, but keep in mind, you are diverging from a standard, and just report that one. Maybe some other utilities, they are doing the same things because it is needed, and CIM standard doesn't include that. But that's fine. We can get it to the people that they can push to the standard. With the next release, you get it, and then you remove your extension and use what is in the standard, because maybe come with a different naming, but still, that's the attribute that you can use it. Maybe here I can mention the namespaces. That's the other term. Is not in the slide, but I can talk about it. The CIM standard comes with the namespace CIM, CIM, clone, breaker, for example. Then if you see in one file, XML RDF file, you see in front of your object that is CIM, clone, breaker, you know immediately that is a standard. That is CIM standard defined in your standard. If you see XYZ clone ABC, then you know this ABC object is not part of CIM, but based on your need, your use case, you have added. That is how we distinguish. The namespace is very useful because when you define the profiles, as I told you, you can filter all extension, for example. You don't want to give extension to your neighboring utility. Just in your profile, you remove all this namespace and say everything that namespace equal to CIM. And that's it. You get a clean data, and you don't push your extension to other people. Yeah, the next here, actually, the interoperability is very important. I want, with that picture, maybe you get a better understanding what I am talking about. When you convert your, for example, GIS model to CIM model, at that time, then you can talk the same language, correct? If you remove the CIM from the middle and you need to talk to different EMS systems from different vendors or different applications from different vendors, you have to define the same object that you have, translate differently for different systems. And that is a huge work. And if you need to get another application, another system from different vendors, and then you have to do the same breaker that you have in your system. Now you have to define differently for the new system. That is, the CIM comes in place and remove all these headaches, correct? Sorry. Because we are talking about the same language, and that is CIM. Everybody understand. There are no surprises. They know what should be, in breaker object, in transformer object, what attributes they are, what is the meaning of them. And that is one case you can imagine how interoperability is easy through CIM. CIM is, here I wanted to kind of where who using CIM differently. In Europe, they use the CGMES. They define this, common grid model exchange standard. It still is based on CIM, but they define the profiles and mandatory structure for these profiles that everybody in Europe has to use it, which is a good thing. Then there's no surprises. Nobody on its own is going to interpret that. That is defined in the system level, and everybody is using. That is the same model, same structure, same outcome. On the other side, in North America, CIM adoption is growing. That's great, because utilities realize how helpful it is and how can save them time, money, if they move to CIM. At the beginning, maybe that is some challenges, but after that, your journey gets much easier. And used for different applications, EMS planning, integration. It is project-based implementation, correct? You are utility, you talk to your vendor, and you try to bring your legacy data model to CIM-based. That is in your project, okay? Different utility, they start different project with different vendors, and that is not related to each other. That is same model, different implementation. That is the difference between North America and European NSOE, that they define this CGMES, which is good. And maybe give more understanding of what it is, I put this slide together. You can see SIM as ingredients, and CGMES is the recipe. The recipe, how they want to get these all objects in SIM and make the dish that they want, correct? And cook all the time the same dish, not every time comes something else out. If you need omelets, you should get omelet, not a steak. And for North America, we are, as I said, we are project-based. Each project is doing its stuff. Maybe that is the time, we think about it, and something similar to CGMES for North America, or complementing that one, get the idea, think about it. Maybe that is the right time. I feel we need that kind of level at the system level, that everybody can use it. Instead of each utility in silo go through that journey and challenge the same issues, utility A, utility B, utility C, they are challenging the same problem. If you imagine if that was in the system level and we solve it once and everybody can use it, this is going to save time, money, and trust in the grid and get more people on board with SIM, correct? That is what we should do. And yeah, later might become some idea that we can go that route, but that is just the difference. That is a different flavor, different recipe for European and North America that you can see here in that picture. How SIM is actually used, the file exchange is through XML RDF. In the standard community, they are talking about using the JSON, maybe in next release of SIM 18 eventually is coming out. But currently is the XML RDF. There's a file and profile-based exports based on your use cases. You can export, just as I said, the profile is just a subset of your model. You can analogy like a pizza. You need just a piece of that pizza. That slice of pizza is just your profile. It is vendor-specific implementation for each project, point-to-point integration. SIM is often used as a file format, not as a living system. This one, just keep in mind for now. Maybe in webinar 3, we are going to talk about more about what I mean with living system. We can talk about it later. But if you come to SIM standard, then the good things is out of box, you get all this validation that the tools, they are there. For example, SIM tools there, you can make some run the validation on your model, out of the box. After you convert it to SIM, XML RDF format, you can run the validation, show all this shape constraint language, and make sure your model is correct. And that is the other benefit you get when your data is in SIM, and you can run these tools out of the box. And some of them, they are just open source and you don't pay for it, and that's good things. And make sure your model is valid. I hope I'm not going fast, but here the other things, when to use SIM. When you decide, that is the time we need to use SIM. When you system-to-system data exchange, correct? As you saw the spaghetti there, the lines between the systems, you don't want to make the point-to-point custom integration. If that is the case, then you should think about adopting SIM. New integration projects that you have, modernization initiatives that you want to get your grid modernized, that is the time. Think about SIM. If you have multi-vendor environments, correct? If you have different applications from different vendors and you want to talk, exchange the data between them, for sure, that is the time thinking on SIM and adopting. and especially where long-term interoperability matters. And these days, as you see, our grid is so dynamic and is adding a lot of stuff to that. And interoperability is something that you cannot avoid. You need that in future to get new system because one vendor cannot do everything. And you need to get for analytics, you need to get another application from different vendor and add to your system, correct? How you make the integration, how you make that smooth to adopting a new system. Then takes 2 months, 2 weeks, 2 years to get a new one, or that's quick, fast. That is the key. If you can get quick, fast, and you have your model, just the next application, you can shop for it and add to your, ecosystem. That's great. You don't want to wait 2 years to get some feature to your ecosystem. How to start? That is my recommendation based on all my experience that I had. If you want to start very small. One use case, define one small use case. Use existing CIM profiles. The standard one is coming with CIM. Don't try to make your profiles. Don't try to make extension, define extension. Just very simple, a simple use case with existing profiles. Maybe you find some attributes they are not going to, that's fine. Just ignore them. And focus on data exchange first. When you can come from your legacy system to CIM model and you can exchange it, you did huge improvement. Your huge effort that you have done behind you. The rest is kind of similar. You add more attributes. Maybe you need to define profiles. You need to add extension, but the pipeline is there. You could convert a simple set of your legacy model to CIM standard. You can export it as XML RDF file. You can give to somebody that has this network model management tools and say that file, can you import it? They import it, they can report back to you all validation errors that they can see. For example, if you have an island, there are some devices, they are not connected, a topology is not solving and so on. Then you go back and fix it until you get a good pipeline from your legacy data model to CIM, and then you can pass through and build experience gradually. I was last year, October, Raleigh CIM user group, and I heard a lot that CIM is complex. We don't have CIM expertise in-house, and we are dependent to many other factors. That is, you are building your own CIM experience people with your staff, correct? If you start simple, they learn it. They learn it simple and not overwhelmed. If you drop your model and say, hey, go and convert that onto CIM. I want to have it in 1 week. That is a lot of work and that is scary. But start very small, go through what you get from the CIM standard with the profiles that you need, for example, equipment and topology, correct? Just get these two simple profiles. Try to convert your model to that one, export, go through that pipeline, build the pipeline, and your staff, they will learn through that journey. As I said, CIM is not software that you can download, install, bring it in and say, good, we have CIM-based model. It's not the case. But going through that journey, the people, they will learn. Okay, where challenges still exist. Profiles differ across model updates are hard to manage. Validation and consistency are complex. CIM reduces chaos, but doesn't eliminate it completely, okay? And even with CIM, integration effort remains high. That is the reality. It is reality. And in next webinar that we are going to talk about these challenges more deeply. I love to hear from the utilities that already they are in process, they have done it, they are going through right now. Share with us the challenges that you have. Maybe I can integrate in the next webinar and talk about that just as use cases or challenges, no matter what it is, challenges to mapping or integration, validation, whatever it is, mapping to your SCADA data and so on. I love to hear about that. Then I can, as I said, this way you and I'm open. If you share with me your challenge that you have, then we can talk about it. And that everybody can use. Lesson learned is very important. That we can, as I said, we are a community. You should not, in that, as I said, CIM is a journey. In that journey, you should not feel you're alone. If you share your challenges, then we work as a community together, try to find a solution together, and even, or at least you know what you're going to face when you go through that journey, Yeah, SIM solves language, but not everything. SIM defines a structure nicely, defines the meaning, improves exchange, interoperability between the systems vendors, but it's still not a standard way to manage models over time. Not a standard execution layer, not built-in governance across systems. That is the stuff is still on the this side that we are missing. The bottom line is SIM a standardized data, which is great, but now how it is used, managed or trusted. There is no forcing in that level, okay? This, I'm going to talk more about this stuff in webinar 3, actually. And at that time, we can share, what we think about it. Yeah, I come to closing. SIM gave us a shared language, but language alone is not enough. What is missing is how models are used, governed, and trusted. That's what we will explore next. And as I said before, as a community, we love to hear your experience, your challenges that you share, you send to Ryan, myself, that we can collect all this information. They are very valuable. And then the next seminar, webinar, we can build on the top of that. And we can talk openly here. And as I said, you shouldn't feel you're alone in your journey, and we can go through that. Here I maybe, I don't know, the timing, I guess we are good. We have more time for questions and so on. And if even you can talk, if you want to share something, that's great. Ryan, I guess we can open to questions.
Hi, Mohsen, that's perfect. Yeah, I've already got some Q&A questions lining up here. Feel free now, everybody, if you have some questions, put them in the Q&A section and we'll get to them when we move through them. Starting with the oldest one here, somebody asked, can you remind us again, what's the process for standardizing extensions? As a TSO, for example, if we identify and extend the SIM model, how can we then get these extensions standardized and what is the criteria? I was going to make a quick note on that, Mohsen, if you want to expand on it. UCA is working to build a bit of a tutorial, and we'll probably have that out maybe end of May or sometime in June, where anyone, it's free, where anyone can come and submit an extension or improvement, other known as issues, on UCA's Redmine issue tracker. And there'll be a nice tutorial showing some photos, some how-to steps on writing a use case document. There'll be a template for that as well. Basically plug and play. Then you'll go to Redmine and submit it. And then from there, you will kind of reach out to one of the conveners or the model managers for one of the working groups that your extension most relates to, and you'll work with them to get involved in a discussion amongst some of the working group or task force members. And from there, you'll work towards either including it in an CIM update or moving on because it had already been included in the previous update. Is there anything you'd like to add to that, Mohsen? That's UCA's side of it.
Yeah, that's great. But as I said, for extension part, before you try to define any extension, try to find out if really it is somewhere in the CIM is defined. Maybe it's not obvious that you can see in the first place, but maybe it is somewhere hidden that you can use for that purpose that you try to extend. But if you don't find anything, yeah, that is totally fine. Define your extension. But the other things, as you know, CIM comes in as a UML package. Don't try to mix with the standard inside the standard CIM packages. Try to make your extension package and try to do that. Separate that. That is going to remove a lot of headache for you later if you get a new version, of CIM. Then they are separated. You can just compare your extension right now is part of new CIM version or not. If it is, just you go and change it and use the standard instead of your own extension and so on. No, that's great. The explanation that you gave, Ryan. That was just my 2 cents on top of that.
Thanks, Mohsen.
Yeah.
The next question we have here in Q&A for you is, isn't the only use case for the CIM model the interoperability of the data between these different source systems? What are other use cases besides the data interoperability for the visibility into the system?
What is else? Yeah, interoperability actually, the thing is you make a snapshot at that time from your model, correct? When you export, it still is a file. You export that file with the profiles that you are using, and that is actually a snapshot at the moment from your model that you have. But 2 days after that, your model is evolving, correct? And you have, if you get another export, you get differently. And how you make this versioning in between and so on, that is the complexity. I was just talking a little bit, not going deep inside, but that is the one you should be aware of. Yeah, that's the stuff that I can say. Interoperability could be critical and challenging because what you're doing, you're making the data exchange, correct? Sometimes the meaning of that in different contexts is different. With which application you are doing that, what is the meaning there? Might be the, the generation in EMS or in AGC or in marketing, they have different meaning. And yeah, that is what we should be aware of.
Thank you, Mohsen. The next one we have is a bit of a statement, and if you would, please respond to it. CIM has strictly defined classes and attributes. It is very likely to have data extensions to customize CIM to an individual business need to host attributes not available in IEC CIM standards. How to effectively overcome this issue?
That is, we are slow a little bit on the standard side, and I can understand that because they received this proposal, they have to go. But the need in the field is today. You cannot wait, a couple of months here to get this one inside the CIM standard. You have to do this extension, and that's totally fine. You can define it, but with a different namespace and use it until it comes through the standard and you can get it. If I understood the question correctly, that is the way you have to go because you need it now. You have a use case. You are missing this attribute or class completely. You have to define it as extension and use it. and submit it, report it, you need that one. And if the standard team, that the working groups, they see that is coming from a couple of utilities, then there is a need to get it in the standard. And that's go through all this working group based, is it transmission, distribution, marketing, where should land, and then they take care of that and will come in the next release.
That's really a good point. And that's why we want to get the tutorial up and going for everybody. That way it's easier and it's quicker. Even if you don't have time to maybe fill out a use case document, by all means, please send me an email, find the correct convener or working group member, get a hold of them, try to figure out if maybe your extension was already included in a more recent CIM update. We do understand that that might also be a little difficult for especially newcomers, trying to figure out, was my extension improvement already included in a previous update, and I just need to get to that. That's a little tedious, and we're trying to find an easier way to do that. Again, it's probably best at this time to, if you have questions about if it was already included, kind of reach out to a working group member or a convener. The next one we have, Mohsen. How can a vendor interpret CIM differently in Europe? Can you give an example?
Yeah, because the application underneath that they are using might be differently, because the application, they are not, let's say EMS, if they have the EMS, and that is different interpretation of that value can happen. And as I said, one could be the max generation, for example, could interpret it differently with inside the vendor application. And you cannot force that through CIM standard. CIM just defines the structure, defines the meaning, but how you use it, it is no force for that, correct? You can use it for different things. When it comes inside the vendor's application, they have their own data structure, their own database, and how they are using. They want to generate PSSE format, for example. They use this attribute differently, and they put different formula on the top of that, and that comes to the different interpretation that I am meaning there. Maybe in webinar 3 we can talk about that more and get more example. And the other things, on LinkedIn, I am posting some articles. If you are interested, follow me, go and read them. They are also in series. You should start from beginning and go through that. I am going through this journey, with you, and try to explain what you are missing here. And maybe you come more prepared for webinar 3. Yeah, any other question?
Yes, we do have a few. They're rolling in. When a DSO and TSO share a common network model and having a data exchange between each other, is it best practice to use a single MAS or separate MAS, a model authority set?
It's better to have one to govern the data is the things, correct? You should govern the model once on the system level. If you separate that and you have two entities to make decision to interpretation, I say again, interpret the data differently, then they are going to diverge, they are going to different route. That is the best that they govern centrally on the system level and then push it down to the other systems. That is my take.
Perfect. I think you answered that well. And another question. We are planning to implement a CIM-aligned data model as a semantic integration layer, for example, as a silver layer in a medallion architecture, and build consumer-oriented data products as a separate gold layer on top. How would you assess this approach in the context of CIM?
You have the same layer and you want to put another console, like an API connection, if that is that kind I can talk about it, but the things is you have your SIM model, as I said, that is a full model, has everything, correct? All classes, attributes, the all association and so on. If you want to put on the top of that another layer, which in webinar 3, I am going to say, I feel we are missing another layer in this stack. There is a missing layer. And in webinar 3, I'm going to talk a little bit more deeper. But if right now your need is to make a custom layer that you can get the data to some other application, some other API or whatever, the things is the profile that we defined, because you want define the use cases first. What is your use case? For that use case, what data you need, and then define your profile. And first look to the standard and see any of a standard profile, you can use it. If use it, great, use it. Don't make your own, and just use it as a standard. If not, define your profile on the top of this layer that you are talking about, correct? Underneath is the same. Same with a full model, like an ocean, correct? But you need just a subset of this data for your consumption, either through profiles and files or differently. But that is the way you have to go. You make this one on the top of that, define your use case, define your profiles, keep a standard as much as you can. If not, define extension and go from there.
Perfect. Thank you. This next one, can you give one or a couple of use case examples that have implemented CIM successfully and use it today still and have documented their experience with CIM?
You should tell me as utilities, but in my experience, if you're expecting to get the SIM and everything shiny, you don't get it. Even CGMES in Europe, that's very good move forward, but still they have issues, correct? It's not solving everything, but it is much better than don't use it. If you avoid to use SIM or adopt it, you are going to have a lot of headache. As I said, this spaghetti scenario, you will get it, or you are already in if you are not using SIM. And that's why sometimes you don't want to touch the system, correct? Say it's working, don't touch it, it's going to break it. That's the reason. If you touch or you add a new attribute or something, you break the other downstream systems. That is a critical one. But yeah, I work, with different ISOs, and I don't know I can mention the name here or not, but that was successful. They had a lot of market participants. They got all of them on the board. They could submit their changes to their model to ISO. They could get their model, put in the full model from the whole estate, and validate, go to a different validation level, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, and make sure their changes to their model is not breaking anything. They can run topology processor, power flow, and so on. And after that, approve that changes. If it was any issues with their model, return back to them and say, hey, you have issues here, go and fix it. For example, this model, we are expecting to get SIM 15 or whatever, this is not SIM 15, for example. And yeah, I have seen it, but challenges, yeah, they have challenges. Still, I don't know anybody that say, yeah, we have no challenges and everything is shiny. No, I am not saying that, but if you're careful and you plan correctly and you educate yourself, and as community, I said, we are all here a stakeholder, as a community, we should help each other. Don't silo and don't, carry the pain yourself and share it. let's that is a journey, and this journey you should not be alone. Let's work together, and um, that's all. Then you get the better output. I will say that way.
That's great. And I have just one comment about that. Just to remind everyone, with a UCA membership, you do have access to a lot of the draft CIM standards. So you can find some information for use cases that might be similar to yours within there, or just send an email. We can help find something that might fit your needs or what you're thinking about, and we can kind of see if there's a document that gives you a little more information. Thank you, Mohsen. And I have
Yeah.
just one last question for you, sir. Are there any governance frameworks for model management out there that could be used as a starting point in a common informational or common CIM implementation?
Not that I know, but at Notepad, my team and myself, we are working on this area, in this area. And might be, we can talk about it just, you know, to get some idea and where we should go. We're exploring that route. Yeah.
Thank you, Mohsen. And
Sure.
with that, that does wrap up our Q&A section. I don't see any others coming in right now. I want to thank you again, Mohsen, for your time today and offering this free educational session for everyone to come and just learn a little bit about CIM. Again, this will be sent out via email with a link, so you can access it within 48 hours of this webinar completing. We'll also post it on UCA's YouTube and our website. Mohsen, do you have any closing comments?
Just for next webinar, as I said, we are talking about challenges. If you have any challenges right now, currently you are involved, I appreciate that. Share with Ryan, myself, that we can get this onto the next, webinar as a slide there that we can talk about it, and everybody knows and heads up, and they are going to face that kind of challenges. And what is the reason we get it? How we can fix it? That is the purpose of this kind of webinar. I don't want it's not academic one, it's more practical, how you fix it, in the field. And please share with us. We appreciate that.
Yes, we appreciate you too, Mohsen. And I do see one last Q&A question, but we'll finish up the webinar now and we'll answer this last Q&A question in the chat after the meeting. Thank you everyone again for attending this Smart Grid session with UCA and Mohsen Kadem. We hope you have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.